Today we celebrate Jesus winning the victory. But death remains for us today a very real enemy. In June of 1944, the Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy in what we call today D-Day. And historians would agree that the battle waged that day assured for the Allied forces an ultimate victory over Nazi Germany and the Axis powers. D-Day was in 1944, but the ultimate surrender, the final victory, wouldn't be had until August of 1945. Well, what happened in the year between D-Day and final surrender? Bombings, raids, warfare, bloodshed, it all continued. Even though the enemy's back was broken, there wasn't that final moment of surrender. Jesus on the cross, and 3 days later in his resurrection from the dead, broke the back of the grave and defeated Satan and the forces of evil. Death itself was defeated. But Jesus has not returned yet to take us to be with him for all eternity. The new kingdom, the new heaven, the new earth is not yet here. And so even though we've seen victory assured, we're still fighting. There's still danger, and there's still difficulty and trial, and still attack. We still have an enemy. And so it's very important for us as a church today to understand that while we celebrate today our victory, and while we know for sure that we have nothing to fear, there's still a lot left to accomplish. There's still a lot of fighting to be done, not just on behalf of those that we love, but indeed on behalf of the whole world. I want to encourage you today with a word from Paul, and when he writes to the church in Ephesus. He says here in chapter 6, verse 10, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit, with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints." We have a fight to wage still. We still have an enemy, and it's very important that we have the armor of God on today, and that we continue to wage this war effectively. Albert Einstein was a lot of things, but he was also a professor, and he would give exams. And one year, his assistant came to him, and as every good professor does, they change the exam from time to time. And the assistant had noticed that while he had some different answers on the key, that the questions hadn't changed. And so he came to Einstein and said, "Professor, I'm sorry, it looks as though you haven't changed your questions. You have different answers." And Einstein said, "Oh no, the questions are right. It's the answers that have changed." He had come to understand things differently. The questions today for us as a church, and the questions for those that we serve, the questions all remain the same, but the answers are changing. The things that God is doing to accomplish the great commission of the gospel today are changing. And it's important for us as believers to have the full panoply of armor on, and a wonderful and full free connection with the Lord through the power of prayer engaged today, that we might have the proper answers for all the questions being asked. Continue to challenge us and encourage us to see these days for what they are, an opportunity to represent the Lord and to be instruments in his hand to accomplish his great work. We love you. We love serving a King who's victorious, and we love working with one another during these days until his return. God bless you today, and have a very happy, fulfilled Resurrection Sunday. God bless you.